which we can confirm by again comparing the spouse.
House, listen, I think...
I'd rather play than cook.
I've got your car now. Now I'm gonna work on your house. Jim. Very exciting Hollywood kind of life here. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry.
You picked them up.
I can do that.
You did have some rules.
But let's get back to the question of who's Jack Ruby. So when we came across this picture of Jim Mars dancing on Jack Ruby's stage at the Carousel Club, and we know that Jim Mars is being played by David Rockefeller Jr., we were looking in the direction of David Rockefeller Sr. as being Jack Ruby. The genetic traits are there, but they are not the same person, although they are related as well. And we also see Jim playing an additional role as John Rex Reeves. Now, that's Jim Reeves' cousin. Jim Reeves, of course, played Oswald. As you can see, we have many different forms of biometrics that match him, along with the fact that he plays with Tex Ritter and Patsy Cline, who played Marina. And as your confirmation, we can see that Jim Reeves was married to this person. So there you have it. That's absolute proof, solid fact, that what I'm saying to you is true. There's no argument. There's no dispute. That's it. But of course you will. I know. There'll be plenty of you out there that'll still want to argue. So, we'll keep on going and show you more. All the information that I'm referring to that was in part 1 can be, of course, downloaded from wellaware1.com in high-res version so you can do your own analysis of the images that we're talking about. But if you want to verify that Patsy Cline was the individual playing Marina, all we have to do is look at the child, and you can see that it's the same person. But let's go back to Jack Ruby, as I was wrong when it comes to him being David Rockefeller Sr. But I was correct about him being related to Tex Ritter, as it is his nephew, David Kenneth Ritter. Now, whether or not he is David Sr.'s son, we don't know yet, but he is listed at least as Tex's nephew. David Kenneth Ritter was also the former mayor of Beaumont, Texas, where many of the individuals that we were talking about have ties to. Ken has also been given credit for producing several of the Big Bopper's songs. And there is rumor that he is actually Roy Orbison. And of course we see him in this photograph here with Tex Ritter, his uncle, and his brother working on some music in the studio. And while we're speaking about the Big Bopper, let me refer you to a archive site that's put up by Mary Farrell. We'll talk about her in a little bit later because she plays a important part in this too. But on her site you will see some pages that are known as the mugshots. I've gone through each of the mugshots and we've identified just about everyone on there. I'll pick out some of the top ones and we'll review them in a moment. Also on her site there's a person by the name of George Edward White Jr. Now his photo is getting increasingly more difficult to find on the web, and it just said that he died not too long ago, so you can find his obituary, that's about it. By now you might have figured out the connection between these individuals and each other. If not, hold tight because I think you will after you see the next few. The 4 individuals that we see in this image are individuals that were taken into custody the day of the assassination. They also play key roles in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I went to left field, and I just caught a glimpse of him there. And And then I didn't see him good enough, so I decided to go on downtown. So of all the places downtown, I picked right in front of that Texas bookstore depository. You know.
He's wearing a mouthpiece for a reason, and it's pretty obvious when you see who he is. Allow me to reintroduce you to Buddy Holly. Now, it's interesting. You see the cricket that's standing there next to him on his left-hand side? That's played by Officer Tippett's son, the officer that was supposedly killed by Oswald. You'll find out who he is later on. This is where it gets a whole lot more interesting. See these two crickets? Remember those faces. The next bit of footage you're going to see was shot in 1964. It's raw footage the first day that Bobby Kennedy served as a senator.
Really legitimate. What are we here?
When I saw this footage, I was amazed. But it gets better. Way better. Remember what I said about him being Tippett's son? Keep that in your mind. Now let's continue in the same clip.
Is your brother also coming?
Happy to hear.
Thank you.
He went the other way.
No, he's going back to his office.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh my. Watch this.
Yeah, I wanted to do a story on it. I wonder, is there any time in the next couple of hours we can have any kind of a chat for 10 or 15 minutes on, color stuff, soft stuff, that sort of thing? And I thought I'd be able to ride back with you to the...
Oh, look at that. We found the other cricket. But that's not the best part. Check this out.
Virginia and then take a cab.
All right, that's fine.
Where are you going to go after this?
I'm going to go probably to Virginia or my brother's office.
Should I just get my coat and stand ready?
But once you get to catch yourself to Gusman.
But I said I want to be in the car with you to chat.
Yeah, but he'll be with me. And then we won't...
Okay, so that's the big tall guy from the beginning that we saw Bobby talking to. Carl Perkins. Of course, we have Buddy Holly. The Everly Brothers.
Nobody's good now, baby. Come back, baby, come back, baby, come back, baby.
That's Bill Black, Elvis's bass player. And pay attention to DJ Fontana.
Dallas man had taken his small son to see the president. Here he tells what he saw.
Unfortunately, I was probably 15 to 20 feet away from the president when it happened.
Tell us exactly what you saw, sir.
He was coming down the street, and my 5-year-old boy and myself were by ourselves on the grass there on Park.
That's Johnny Cash. So the tall guy in Bobby Kennedy's office was Carl Perkins. But Carl plays two other roles. One of them is on the mugshot. You can see the photograph of the person named Sealing. And the other one, he plays as J.D. Tippett. And look where J.D. Tippett, Carl Perkins, is from. Tiptonville. Unbelievable. But that's not everything. Let's go back to Bobby Kennedy's office.
Really legitimate.
What are we here? Is your brother also coming?
Happy to hear.
Thank you.
He went the other way.
No, he's going back to his office.
Oh, that's okay.
story on your first day. I wonder, is there any time in the next couple of hours we can have any kind of a chat for 10 or 15 minutes on, color stuff, so obviously on touch that sort of thing. And I thought I might be able to provide.
Why don't you push the wall?
Senator Monday, squeeze for us. Will you come in the right-hand side? Senator
So that's Roy Acuff. He's supposed to be dead at this point. This is in '64. He died before then. Or so that's what the music industry tells you. And he's playing the role of Everett Dirksen, Senator. And as you read that write-up, pay attention to the last line, where it says he's known as the Wizard of Ooze for his oracle style. Well, that's not really true. We'll get to that in a second, though. The Senator here, he plays several roles. He was at the Dealey Plaza during the assassination, well, the hoax assassination now that you know, as the baggy-dressed man in the mugshots. And he's also played the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, Ray Bolger. So we have Carl Perkins, who's associated with Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, Johnny Cash, and Chuck Berry, who you'll see in a little bit. And we see Jerry Lee Lewis and his cousin, his wife, down at the Dealey Plaza, and also in the mugshot book as well. And she was the woman that was sitting in the doorway in the office that Bobby just walked through, as we see her here also. And while I was digging, I managed to track them to their other identity. Now, although this cricket, Dion, played the role of Tippett's son, that doesn't mean he's necessarily Tippett's son, but he may just as well be. And of course we have the other cricket, Eddie Cochran. So the person that we have in common between all of these individuals happens to be Roy Orbison, who, if you remember, I said the rumor had it that that's Ken Ritter, Ruby, from the Assassination. Let's not forget about the other person in the photograph with Buddy Holly, Arnold Roland. Here's his video.
Just looking around, and we noticed a man up in the window, and I remarked to my wife, tried to point him out, and
his wife, yeah right, looks more like his mother. He's pretty young, so you'll see in a moment.
Remarked that he must be a security guard, Secret Service agent.
The window then that you're referring to is on the opposite end of the building from where the main entrance to the building is.
Yes, it is on the other side of the building. And he had a rifle. It looked like a high-powered rifle because it had a scope which looked in relation to the size of the rifle to be a big.
If you're familiar with the story about the Big Bopper, Buddy Holly and Richie Valens, and them dying in the plane crash, you'll also know that the pilot of that plane was basically a high school student, and that's him. Other person that's standing in the background, the small black child, you may know him from this group. That's Frankie Lyons. He was basically a pioneer when it comes to doo-wop, and it was said that Michael Jackson's Jackson 5 were modeled after his group.
Top of your profession, pretty young. How old are you exactly? 14.
That's a lie.
How long have you been at it? Oh, for about a year and a half.
A few days ago, Amos Ewens came back here with us and gave a vivid account of the assassination itself and of a piece of pipe he saw poking out of a window. Your window, Dan.
When he come around, and when I was standing there, I happened to look up and I seen a pipe, you know. So I never did pay no attention, thinking it might be a pipe, just a pipe, you know, sticking. Rolling, take one.
How many shots did you hear from the window?
Well, I heard 3. Okay, I was just going around like this, and when the car come around the corner, I came over here,
and I stood here, and that's when I seen the pipe sticking out the window. About in the 6th floor, right below the baluster there, where I saw it. And by the time they got right along there below the sign, then some shots rang out. That's when I got down behind this.
The big concrete pillar there.
And with Frankie, we see the music industry pulling another stunt by creating a drama and a fictitious death so they can increase the value of the merchandise that they sell. He supposedly died of an overdose of heroin in his grandmother's house. Here we have another individual that's in the mugshot book, Gordon Novell, who is also part of the alternative media that we see playing a role in the Project Camelot. Camelot. And here is another individual that's in the mugshot book that there is no information with. It's just another photograph that's in there with the Dallas police records. And I managed to find him getting a free house from the president.
Dislodging him from this depression in the seat cushion and already favoring Mrs. Kennedy, he automatically fell in that direction.
Of course, James is one of the famous photographers that day that took some very interesting photographs, but you might know his voice from somewhere else.
The one thing that did seem to be a little bit strange, immediately after the car proceeded on to Parkland Hospital,
my name was Curtis Gowdy.
men with drawn guns ran up the terrace.
My mother was the only one to call me Curtis all my life. I went by Kurt, C-U-R-T. I didn't have any nicknames or anything.
And when were you born?
Born July 31st, 1919 in Green River, Wyoming.
Kurt became well known as the voice of the Boston Red Sox. Plus he did a cameo on the movie The Naked Gun in 1988.
Visit, including reporter Bob Huffaker.
My assignment was to go to Maine and Acard and to broadcast the motorcade as KRLD's last stop on the motorcade, the last reporter on the motorcade. I showed up and was gratified to see that, and to broadcast the motorcade as KRLD's last stop on the motorcade.